Hey everyone, this is Ben from the Gorge with Ben and Sara, and you're listening to the BS Podcast Network. This is The Gorge. It's a podcast where my friend Sara and I gorge ourselves in overanalyzing a topic.
The Gorge is brought to you by Patreon. That's patreon.com/thegorge, where for just $5 a month you gain access to not one, but two bonus podcasts. Takeout is a monthly commentary track where Ben and I get together and watch things and talk over it because we don't feel like playing video games that week. And that's Hell You're Walking Into, a podcast where I enjoy the fact that Ben finally rolled Ishtar. Congratulations.
I did actually manage to get her this morning.
Good job, buddy. I'm very proud of you. We all have that moment where we think, I'm going to spend so much quartz, and instead, first roll. So, well done. Welcome to Gotcha Hell. Now you know the real feeling of both endless despair and joy. So, that's basically what the whole podcast is about, like the eternal despair and joy of existing within the Naziverse as a fan. If you think that sounds like fun, head on over to patreon.com/thegorge and kick in a few bucks. We love every single one of our patrons. I truly do. I talk to like 85% of them, I think, and I just think you're all the coolest. So.
We love people like Holy Star 64, Nyan Hellcat, Patrick Perez, Roddy 1/2, Hasso Toby 27, Saturn, Alice Marks, Shia, Magus, Aquamancer, Jack, Liam Lane, and that other one dude. Thank you guys so much.
So, Ben.
Yes.
What are we talking about this week?
2 years ago we talked about probably one of our favorite little-known games of all time. A game called Alien Omen that is incredibly hard to find these days.
Right. Bit of a hidden gem.
Yeah. So, imagine our surprise when we discovered that there was, in fact, a sequel made.
There was a sequel, fairly recently released for the Switch, by THQ Nordic. And, well, for reasons that we'll get into, it is no longer available on the Switch.
It's okay.
For a few reasons.
It's kind of it's funny because like when we saw what was happening, I was like, no, we can't. I deliberately avoided putting it on the docket because it was like, no, this has to go in the episode.
Yeah, it all has to go. I mean, like, as soon as we saw that there was a 2, it was like, oh, shit, we have to have an episode about it. And then, the game came out, we played the video game, and then things just kind of kept happening a lot in the game and externally. And it was like, oh no.
So first off, I just want to say that it is actually, I'm relieved that we didn't know about this until it had already come out.
Sure.
Because we would have Mighty Number 9'd this thing so hard.
Oh, I know. I think we probably would have hyped ourselves into the stratosphere, just been like, oh, there's no possible way it could be bad, right? I mean, like, it's following up on a video game we both love unconditionally. And
we would have dragged our audience into it.
Yes.
We would have been like, no, you guys have to get on board with this. Like,
you have to play this video game. Surely it'll be good. And then we'll all be able to talk about it on the Discord, and we'll all have a good time and be happy and that is not what happened at all.
I think you described it to me. Playing this game is like watching yourself fail college.
Yeah.
Like slowly.
Yeah. That's exactly the feeling I had while I was failing college myself.
Just like
and playing Alien Omen 2, it was like reliving those days where it was just like So I don't know if you've ever, like, failed a class, even though you, like, know how to do the class. Like, have you ever failed a class, even though you know the subject very well because you just kind of have, like, brain problems that keeps you from doing that?
Yes, it was devastating.
It was tragic. So you're watching yourself fail this class in slow motion, and it's kind of like it being in a waking nightmare where, like, every day you wake up and you dread the fact that you're just going to keep failing this class and you can't explain yourself to anybody, right? That's what playing Alien Omen 2 felt like.
It's the slow motion feeling equivalent of not getting a job that you applied for and interviewed for, and you thought you did a great you had a great interview on it.
Yep.
Getting the message that they have gone in another direction in slow motion for 80 hours.
It's misery. It truly is just like a slow grind into paste, and I don't know how this happened. I've laid awake at night in the build-up to this episode, like, because I knew we were going to eventually do this episode, and I've lain awake at night staring at my ceiling, just going, like, what happened? Like, how did they took something so good and just stripped it of everything that gave it charm and life and complexity, and gave us this.
It was so hard to not constantly talk about how much 13 Sentinels was a breath of fresh air coming off of this during our episodes with that, because it was like, no, Saturn wouldn't get it.
Saturn wouldn't get it. It would eventually degenerate into, like, you and I complaining about this game in comparison to 13 Sentinels. And of course, since Saturn hadn't played it, they would just be stranded on an island, waiting for us to get over our infinite sadness. I think this game disappointed even more than Xelia 2, which is saying a lot, because boy, we famously hate Xelia 2 on this podcast.
There were so many direct comparisons between Alien Omen 2 and Xelia 2.
I know. There's all of the reuse. It's like they were like, what if we just reused a bunch of stuff from the first game, but, like, without any of the charm? You know, like, so towns are reused, but there's no day-night cycle anymore, which was such an interesting part of the game.
And they didn't like properly, like, up-res the textures for the reused assets. They didn't, like, increase the poly count, so you get this thing where, like, these new characters who were created just for the sequel, like, pop out like it's a pre-rendered background, but bad.
Yeah, like, to me, it's like, when I first heard the idea where it was like, oh, it's a new cast, but in the same world, you know? Like, that on paper is really cool, because you get to see kind of the fallout of the first game, you know, all in this second game. And it's like, okay, that'll be really interesting. We'll get to see how things have changed, you know. It's been several years since the first game in the plot, you know. We thought, like, I'll get to see how things have changed. I'll get to see, you know, the progression of the world. And then they just reused, like, 85% of the towns, and it was like, oh, okay. Never mind. So I guess nothing's changed. That's fine.
You remember the part in Tales of Symphonia where, like, you can rebuild the town, and like it ends up looking completely different than what it was beforehand?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like one of my favorite little mini games in the game.
And then this one, it's like, even though, like, fundamentally the universe of the like, this game changed by the time you hit credits of Alien Omen 1, it's like, oh no, it's all the same still, actually. It hasn't... They had that dumb hand wave where it's like, oh, well, things haven't changed yet. And it's like, it's been 5 years.
It's been 5 years. You tell me that you didn't even bother to, like, upgrade anything? There's no, like, not even like a new car rolling around. Like, I swear to God, even some of the damage that, you know, that one of the towns took, it's still there. They didn't even fix it. It's like it's been 5 years. The chapel collapsed. You guys ever gonna put that back together? You just going to church in like ruins?
It's it's like they're trying to evoke like Sector 7 thing, like a Midgar thing, but it's like you can't do that in like the more prosperous cities and and have someone just say like, oh well, we kept it up as a memorial. It's like, that's unstable. There are giant tendrils like wrapped around this building with like broken windows, and you don't even have it fenced off.
Bro, that's not a memorial. That's just the city council is lazy and just doesn't want to put the money toward fixing the chapel. Really?
You didn't even put some police tape around the door?
Maybe like a gate? Like even a sign? Do not trespass? You know? Something? No? Okay. Fine.
No, it breaks the barrier from nostalgic and just becomes lazy, really.
It's just lazy. Yeah, it's like you couldn't even... Like, at this point, I don't really like how AI up-res games look, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like what they did to, like Chrono Trigger, you know? When the PC port of Chrono Trigger came out, they used like a smoothing kind of filter, and it's like... I still almost would have preferred that over this.
It's...
Like, at least then maybe it would have looked a little more cohesive.
The weird part to me is that it's so unsettling, because it's like, you know, you think about like, oh, you in Resident Evil 3 you go back to the police station and like you can walk around that as Carlos, right? Neat. In the remake, right? Oh, neat. Look at this cool thing. Resident Evil 3 and Resident Evil 2 remake play very similarly. Alien Omen 1 and 2 do not play very similarly, and the geometry they imported makes the changed perspective and like control scheme walking around towns in the overworld so weird.
Everything just feels so bad. I can't even explain it. You feel like
you don't feel
like you're walking in mud.
You don't feel like you're in that environment. You
know?
know?
Yeah.
You feel like you're like the character is just green screened over it.
They're just floating on top of it. Like you feel like the townspeople should be able to look up and like see the character avatar just kind of like floating above them. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Whoever you have in the lead is like so much higher detailed.
It's so strange. It's extremely strange. Like I don't know, like I don't know. I'm just so like baffled by all of these creative choices. Like, surely they didn't think this looked good, right?
I mean,
did they run out of time?
I don't know if it was a budget thing, if it was a time thing, or they just straight up didn't care, because none of the like original, you know, producers or developers are here, right? Like they lost the rights to that years ago.
They've moved on since then. Yeah, they're off making far better games.
Which, you know, and again, don't even get me to the point where like they didn't even ask any of the voice actors to come back at all.
The only person they asked to come back was like the composer, and I don't know what happened because
the MIDI music was charming when it was on a PS2.
Sure.
And like it kind of created this nice aesthetic, but it doesn't fit here, and none of the remixes sound nearly as impactful.
The sound quality is so crushed. I feel like I'm listening to it through a Genesis, but like without any of the charm of Genesis music, you know?
And they do that thing where it's like you can have the original version or you can have the remixed sequel track, right? But the original tracks aren't right, and I know they're not right. I know there's something wrong with them, because I've been listening to this game's OST for like 2 decades.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no. They're just so...
Like, I
don't know what they did to the mixing.
There's bits missing.
Yeah, like, I feel like they just forgot... Like when they said they're like, we're remastering the tracks. Like, did you forget to turn on certain parts of the track? Like, did you forget to turn on the horns? Like, what's going on? Like, you listen to it and you're like, this sounds weird. This sounds weird and bad. Why? And then you listen to it a little bit longer and you have to go to YouTube and like find the original version. And it's just like, oh no. Oh, they forgot parts.
It's aggravating, and it's just one more minor thing that just digs into you about this game.
It mounts,
yeah.
You know?
You just add it to the pile.
Oh, God. So I don't even... It feels like we're just, like, hopping around a lot. I think we hopped around a lot in the first episode, too, for completely different reasons. Because we're hopping around a lot in here because it's just so, like,
I remember
bad.
And playing Devil May Cry 1, right? And being like,
right.
How can 2 be bad if it's just more of this? Like, how do you mess this up in a way that like is universally panned? And then I played Devil May Cry 2.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, oh, I get it now. I
like
see.
That.
And it's the exact same thing. We spent so much time praising Alien Omen 1 for like all of the unique like mishmash of genres that went into this one game, right? And how they all like flowed and blended and felt really natural. And this feels like they just stapled 8 bad games together and then like called it a day.
They just were they were like, well, you know, the first game has a bunch of different gameplay styles and ideas, so clearly we have to do that. But the problem is that the first game had a bunch of different gameplay styles and ideas, and they understood all of those styles and ideas. I don't think the people in this game who made this game like understand any of the styles of games. They're even like the basic RPG stuff. It's like, I don't think you know what you're talking about.
Hey Sarah, did you like Fire Emblem 3 Houses?
I did like Fire Emblem 3 Houses.
Did you like the gameplay of Fire Emblem 3 Houses?
Yeah.
Do you want to do that gameplay for every single random encounter in this game?
Oh, I guess I don't have a choice. If I have to play this game to completion for the sake of review, I have no choice. Every single battle has to be like the most tedious. Everything is... If there was a way to make this like a more concise and like efficient way to spend the player's time, it's like they saw it and deliberately avoided it.
Right.
Like they saw an easy way to make things move faster and like, nope, we're not doing that because we gotta pad like maybe 15 hours worth of story content into like an 80-hour video game.
We have to,
and there's really only one way to do that.
We have to hit 80 hours, which means every single battle is on this dumbass grid that sucks and is awful, and you have no way to speed it up or make it more efficient or like bypass anything. Why?
There's no like even like an Earthbound style auto battle like where you're like a high enough level. Nope.
Why do enemies have to get their turn off? Even if you manage to clear the field and get to them in turn 1, why do they still get one more turn before they fade away?
I don't understand. It's such a bizarre way to make a turn-based game. They literally, even if you get to them in turn 1 and have enough like moves to still do damage, they can still take like a revenge action, and there's there's no way to prevent that until the very ass end of the game. Like, it's one of the most final skills that you can unlock. Excuse me.
And you still have to spend points to equip it.
You still have to spend points to equip. Yeah, so you have a limited number of skills that you can have equipped at any time, and you can never have all of them, no matter how much you level. And so, because of that, you have to trade a more useful skill in order to just have the battle be over faster. Like, it truly feels they were just like, we're gonna waste your time, because it also means that you almost can't avoid taking damage unless you're just insanely higher level, so that the revenge action only takes one point of damage. But that means you can never truly avoid taking damage, and that means you're always grinding for more healing, because the only way you can recover magic points in this game is to finish battles.
Right.
You can't. Yeah.
And I get it, because you and I both like Persona, and one of the things that I've come to appreciate about Persona is the resource drain to complete a dungeon, right? The SP recovery you only get some serious SP recovery when you either stop for the day or you spend items that you can't buy in a store, right? And it's this kind of interesting mechanic that prevents you from clearing a dungeon in one day unless you're really good at the game.
Yeah.
This is just here to, it's quote resource management, but it's really not. It's just frustration. It's just making sure you don't have a fully healed party by the time you reach a dungeon's boss.
Yeah, that's it. It's just to waste your time and an artificial way to inflate difficulty in some way. Either you're grinding out battles to recover magic points to keep doing healing, or you just truck your way to the final boss with low HP and hope that works. And it's just so bad. There's only, other than by completing battles, the only other way you can restore MP is through a checkpoints, checkpoints in the dungeon. And those are really few and far between. It almost feels like they were like, what if we made an RPG also a roguelike, but bad?
Yeah. What if we took the worst elements of both these genres and combined them together without any of the good parts of these genres?
Without understanding any of the nuance that makes a Final Fantasy or a Fire Emblem or Hades a good video game. They just saw that roguelikes make good money, and you can procedurally generate things.
Which is dumb, because again, talk about asset reuse, and every single cave is just the exact same, but now it's tinted blue instead.
Yeah, sometimes there's crystals on the ground.
Oh,
and that makes it different, don't you know?
Is there any sort of platforming or maze element? No, because it's all all the rooms are randomly generated, and they all have to link together.
They all have to link together very effortlessly and connect smoothly. So you can't have anything cool or interesting in any of the dungeons. And the dungeons, the procedurally generated dungeons, those are new. So of course they look completely different from the outside tiles.
Oh my god.
They are significantly more high res. It's like walking into a completely different video game.
And you get these these color palettes that look pretty good. The color palette choice for those are good, but they don't match. And if you were to take a screenshot of the party in a dungeon and then compare it to a screenshot of one of the towns, you would think they're completely different games.
Completely different places.
You would that's not a sequel.
you hastily photoshopped the party from the dungeons into the town, as a bad April Fool's Day joke. It's so I wonder almost if they started as a different game and then somehow acquired the rights to Alien Omen.
This feels like they were hired to do the HD remaster that was limited time on Switch 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then they went with another company, and then somehow THQ Nordic loopholed the rights still, and we're like, well, we're just gonna make a sequel.
We have these rights, and if we want to hang on to them, we gotta make a video game to go with them. It's kind of like how Sony keeps making Spider-Man movies so they can hang on to the rights to Spider-Man. THQ Nordic was like, we're just going to make a game as fast as possible. Quick, what do we have that's like half developed? And someone was like, well, we have this procedurally generated dungeon crawler. And it's like, we'll slap those two things together and make them work. And they just, it's so jarring. And they brought, like I said, they brought the composer back, but I don't think they paid the composer enough.
His heart was not in it for those new tracks. Like,
you can really tell. Like, the new themes are just so generic and bad.
Except for the boss fight with Jericho.
Oh yeah, well
that was the only time where he's like, "No,
it's
I
raw.
gotta try.
I have to come back. I have to try." that was raw.
That was the one he did first, and the rest is like, "Oh, never mind, I lost it."
They're like, well, you're gonna have this cool boss fight with Jericho, and he's like, sweet, sick. And then he, afterwards is like, so what else do you have for me? Oh, not much.
Oh, here's the other bosses we have. This one is a giant spider. He's in the blue dungeon. Okay, well, here you go.
Here's a like a kind of watery sounding track,
there's not water in the dungeon. Oh.
Well, too bad. This is what you get.
We just reuse the same assets over and over again, and then there's no water hazard or like any sort of like obstacle in your way. I never thought I would miss block pushing puzzles.
I would give anything to push a goddamn block right now.
Can I
like just even one block, please?
Can I please like slide on some ice until I hit a wall?
Yeah, and then have to like reorient myself, please.
Can I please do one of those?
Can I like redirect a beam of light to open a door? You know? Something? Anything?
Please,
no?
Just let me shoot an arrow into like a statue's eye or like fucking something.
Just the most basic form of dungeon interaction would be better than this.
Let me interact with my environment in any way whatsoever.
Instead of just feeling like I'm just kind of like walking on. I mean, that's what we are doing, is we're walking through nothing in order to have bad encounters on a grid for God knows how many hours. And even the leveling is fucked. Like, it takes forever for anybody to gain stats meaningfully, so you're just grinding unless you want to test your luck, and spells are way too, like, they're way too spaced out between levels, you know? And
yeah,
so,
and speaking of tedium, you know, you don't just gain EXP from fighting an enemy, right? Like, no, you gain another, like, a form of currency that you then have to spend at the statues to get stronger.
Yeah, so it's like they were like, hey, you know, the statues in Devil May Cry? How about that? But you have to grind a lot.
But there's 7 characters. And you have to do it for each one of them.
And each one of them, it costs different amounts of like ether points.
That annoyed me so. I don't know about you, but I like when everyone is even, right? Like, I like everyone to be like more or less at the same level in my RPGs, which is why I hate like, oh, if you're not in the party, you only gain half EXP. Shut up, that's dumb.
That's dumb. I hate it.
You either gain none or all, because if you gain none, then I can at least swap you out when you're over leveled and get new people in.
It's horrible. Oh, but no, of course, like, everybody, so like there's 2 healers in the game, you know. There's What's the pink-haired chick's name?
Janelle.
Yeah, she's such a nothing character.
Well, you get her so late.
You get her. It's true. You get her like at the very end of the game. So there's Janelle.
You're stuck with Roderick most of the time.
Oh, I know. God. Oh God. So they have Janelle and Roderick have extremely similar move sets because they're both healers, right? Except that like his party cure costs half of what her party cure costs for some incredibly arbitrary reason that I'm sure they tried to explain, but at that point in the game, I had checked out. I was grinding an FGO while they were talking. I'm just like, I could be doing so much other things with my time.
I think hers cures status ailments too, but you don't get those enough for it to cost twice as much.
And plus, like, your status ailments are healed at the end of every battle.
Yeah.
So just tough it out. It's not like there's a grade system or anything like that. You know, most of the time you can just tough out because like these status ailments are extremely basic. They don't do anything interesting. So it's like, well, his heals for more HP. So just do that instead. Stick it out. It does not justify the cost. No,
it's ridiculous. And then, like, you know, they only start diverging, like, at the very end of their leveling paths. And...
Right.
Which doesn't make sense because you get her so late. She just... until, like, the last dungeon, they're basically the same character.
Do you like it when Persona does that? They give you a character at the very end of the game and you barely have any time with them?
My favorite part of Persona is the character you only get for like 2 dungeons. It's a bad idea then, and it's a bad idea in this game, especially when when you have no motivation to get to know them. Because
everybody's so bland.
Because there's no cutscenes. People complain about JRPGs being like, you know, glorified movies with a video game in between. Well, you guys should play Alien Omen 2, because there's fucking nothing for
there's nothing.
Hours.
Like I said, it's an incredibly sparse story set 5 years after an extremely interesting story. And they had to, like, they were just like, we're just gonna pad things out. So, like, the little bits of story you get are separated by, like, hours of meaningless shit. Like, yeah, you can still do, like, side questing and stuff, but those side quests are basically all go here, do that, come back, you know? Like, none of them are plot relevant at all. None of them are on a schedule. You know how, like, in the first game, there's a lot of having to work around schedules in order to, like, meet all the different NPCs and get to know them. There's none of that. There's no scheduling at all. There's no day-night cycle at all. It's just day all the time. Fuck you.
They cut that out, and then, like... You know, it's like, okay, well, they're getting rid of the frustration of, like, waiting until morning to talk to someone to turn something in.
Sure.
But it's like, yeah, at the cost of, well, now they're just not a character. Now they're not, like, now they don't have a life. Now they're not, like, there's not, like, an interesting story going on behind this fetch quest.
Yeah.
There's no,
like, following an NPC around and, like, seeing what their day-to-day routine looks like. And that was part of what, I mean, it was hard to deal with sometimes when you just wanted to turn in a quest and you didn't want to go sleep in the inn. But, like, overall, it added so much texture to the world. It made everything feel so lived in. You know, this is a world that is meant to feel like you're really close to it.
Like, NPCs in the first game, like, they didn't have names or anything, but they would always have, like, a little line of dialogue that gives them, like, a bit more personality than, like, your average, like, generic line that an NPC
Sure,
says,
yeah.
you know, like Funky Student in P4.
Yeah, exactly. They were all kind of on that level. It's not like they had names, but they all would comment on like what's going on in the story, and you know, sometimes their daily routine would change based on like a major, like, again, we talked about the chapel in Old Glory being, you know, destroyed, and one of the NPCs there used to make it like part of her routine to go to the chapel, but once it's destroyed, it's like, well, I know she's usually here this time of day. Where the fuck is she now?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's good. You realize, and, you know, she mentions that she doesn't know what to do with herself now because it was such a part of her day-to-day routine. And it's like, oh, that's nice.
And
you get a sense that people live here.
You don't even really mind that, like, her location is random every time you enter that town, because it's a nice little character quirk about her. She doesn't know what to do anymore, so she just kind of wanders around.
Yeah, and it's cute, and you know, if you want to talk to her, it gives you an excuse to kind of wander around and see the rest of the towns, and it's just a neat little thing. You'll sometimes be going to the shop, and you'll see her, and it's like, oh, hey, I should talk to her. And then, like a normal person. And
then in here, everyone they're static. They're in the locations. They need help killing some lizard folk, and then you do that, and then you get armor, and then you're like, okay, well, that was it. Goodbye forever, person. And
thanks.
And that's it. And that's the most you get from characters until you crawl through the sands to the oasis of character interaction in a cutscene.
And that character interaction in a cutscene is really nothing to even write home. It's all very just kind of bog standard RPG stuff with like a lot of contradicting world building, like little things, and it's just okay. Yeah. Again, that just backs up my theory that like this was a different video game. I'm positive that this was a different video game before they just needed to get this out the door. You know, like I'm positive at this point that this was something completely unique to itself. Like maybe it was supposed to be like what is that fucking store management game? Recettear. Yeah. You know? The store management game with like a dungeon crawling element. Like I almost wonder, was it supposed to be like a Recettear knockoff with a kind of dungeon crawling aspect with like a kingdom management thing? Because there's like a weird system management system.
Okay, so there is like a sort of like mayoral town management system. But unlike the first game with like your house where you can actually like wander around and like see the changes in it, it's all done through menus in this one.
It's all just numbers.
And
like
you get like a photograph of the town, but like you don't ever get to actually like explore it and like reap the rewards of like building and managing it.
Yeah, the only thing that really changes is that because, like, your town is prospering, then, like, other towns are prospering, and so you get better shop prices and stuff, but that just feels so hollow in comparison. It feels so empty.
You can't even shop at your own town. You have to, like, it only benefits other towns.
Yeah.
It's so like, weird. It's so arbitrary. I can't even buy like a cool super weapon from maxing out my town level. Nothing like that. Even like the most basic kind of reward system. No, you can just buy healing items for slightly less. Thanks. I hate it. And you get, you know, and like in the first game, they try to import the sort of like social link element of like your party interaction, getting to know each other. But it only triggers after story beats, and then once you exhaust all of those, again, it's another 8 hours before you get another cutscene where you can actually like, okay, let's trigger some more character advancement. Yeah, and then we're done.
And in the first game, all of the the battle conversations and stuff were staying pretty varied. You know, it had a very easy flow where you realize like, oh, I haven't heard that conversation, because sometimes, I mean, you know, it is still an old PS2 game. Yeah. Conversations repeat every now and then. You know, it's fine. We've all played a Tales game. We've all heard the cry of victory like 30 times. It's cool. And And so, like, but the first game, it had such, like, an easy progression where you're like, well, I haven't heard that one in a while, and then you'll get another thing, and you're like, oh, that's why they haven't done that. It's because something in their character arcs has made it so they don't want to talk about that anymore. Mm-hmm. And here, it's just so, I mean, you can see the like, the construction around it to hold it all in place. Yeah. Right? Like, you just know, like, oh, I'm going to hear all these lines over and over again until the next story beat triggers. And then it's like, well, now you get to hear a bunch of new lines over and over again. And it's totally predictable. You're never really surprised by new lines popping up, right?
It just feels like a cheap imitation. Like, it feels like, not just an imitation, but like an imposter, basically.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many fewer lines, too. I mean, there's so fewer conversations between every character. It just seems so just drab. Again, I wonder if they ran out of time. They must have run out of time, obviously, yeah, but
the fact that they had,
it just wasn't their vision.
Yeah, the fact that they had the audacity to put 2 on this is the thing that's like, oh, thanks. Yeah, you could have given it like a bad spin-off like a
name,
subtitle.
You know? Yeah, Alien Omen, Resurrection, something like that. And that would have at least been like, oh, so this is a spin-off. It's not like an official sequel. But no, apparently they were like, this is the sequel now, and you are stuck with it forever. Which one? No, I'm not. I will never play this video game ever again. I will continue to play Alien Omen 100,000 times.
Well, you can't, for one thing. You can't play it again unless you jailbreak your Switch.
Well, I mean, yeah, you know, but like, even hypothetically, if I could play it again, I wouldn't. Because it's also a buggy mess.
Yeah, no, it did not. It did.
It runs like dog shit. Looks ugly. It's just like, how many frames do you want in this procedurally generated dungeon? 2?
How many? Okay, so like, I was 15 minutes in before I was able to get that clip on the Twitter account of my character just kind of like jittering.
Yeah,
jittering on the overworld because they stepped off a ramp weird.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I can just reproduce that.
I can easily reproduce that one. You just didn't listen to QA. That's cool. You know, if there was any QA at all, God help whoever was forced to like bug test this thing. I just feel like I'd like to find that person and be like, can I see your notebook full of all the notes of busted things in this video game?
How many times?
Because I'm sure it's the length of like a fucking Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. How many times did they get back the working as intended note?
I'm just thinking of all the times I would proceed into the next room of these horrid dungeons that, again, procedurally generated. I would go through the door, and there just wouldn't be anything on the other side of that door. It was like the floor texture didn't load, so it was just like anything that was raised, you know, like rocks or trees. Those were still there, and that was it.
It would take like 1 or 2 seconds before like something solid would pop in sometimes, and I'm like, what is happening behind the scenes that can cause this?
It's not like it's an incredibly beautiful video game running on the Nintendo Switch, you know what I mean?
It's not and it's not like there's a lot of assets or like lighting to load in. It's pretty rudimentary. And yet,
yeah. This is like fucking Octopath Traveler. This is not, you know? It's not doing anything revolutionary with its visuals on the Switch.
No, not at all.
This is extremely basic.
And yet.
So what is going on behind the scenes? Like, is this the result of them just like smushing 2 games together in Unity and praying, just like stapling things together and crossing themselves like Catholic style, like, oh, Mother Mary in heaven, please let this thing just make it out the door.
This feels like they wanted to brag about not having loading screens, and so this was their result of that.
And to their credit,
there are
no loading screens.
There are not. They did do that. They don't even have anything to mask the loading, like, you know, you never trip, or like there's never a door that takes a while to open. It
makes me miss the Final Fantasy VII Remake squeeze-throughs.
It is technically all in, like, one world, you know, one overworld. I guess.
Was it worth it? Was it worth me falling through the floor of every single dungeon? I swear to God, it happened in every single dungeon at least once. In the final dungeon, where the save points are few and far between, extremely spaced out, it happened a whole lot more.
The final dungeon where the budget went, because that's where they actually, like, put, like, backgrounds and, like, moving parts to navigate around.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is, like, for 1 minute, I dared to allow myself to think that this is cool. That this kind of had the weird sci-fi, dream-like, kind of washed-out color palette fantasy game that the first game had. You know, it was the closest I feel they ever got to the aesthetic of the first game. And maybe that's because they were like, well, we have this half-finished game, and we're going to staple Alien Omen shit to it. And like, we still need to make a final dungeon, so let's try to make that actually look like the video game we're mocking. So it's like, cool, you did it. You for just a minute, I almost had the feeling back. Because like, the final dungeon track is Song of the End, but it's like a neat remix that's kind of a little more like high octane.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, oh yeah, you're like bumping your head.
You get those,
and then
like,
you fall through the floor.
Yeah, oh yeah, and then like, you know, you walk in and they do the like pan to kind of show you, you know, what the party's looking at when they first walk in, right? When they finally infiltrate it, and it's like, okay, this is great. You hear that like industrial like metal clanging in the background, right? And you're like, okay, this is dope. You get to the first moving elevator, and then you slip off.
Yep.
It's impossible not to, because
you have to like stick yourself in a corner in a very specific way to make sure you can actually be lifted to the next area.
And then you're like, oh, the moment's gone. Okay.
Moment's over. Okay. You know, it has a cool name. It's the Fallen Ruins, because it kind of fell beneath the world. So it fell beneath the world like I fell beneath the world all the time. Maybe the QA should have also saved the final dungeon.
Like, oh, you remembered there should be aliens in this game called Alien Omen. Mm-hmm. Right. This isn't just wandering around doing the cleanup that the heroes did in their last adventure.
Yeah, no, there should be weird sci-fi elements in your cool fantasy game called Alien Omen. It's there in the title.
You can't have an Omen. We defeated the Omen last time, and then, like, thank God they weren't like, the Omen is back.
Somehow, it's like Rise of Skywalker. Somehow the Omen returned. Yes, I returned.
But you did remember to put aliens in it. It took you 75 hours.
But God,
there was a new alien there. You did it.
Hooray! The title card of this one should just be the "You Tried" star.
No, it should be, I don't think you tried at all, because they clearly didn't.
You're right. I don't think they tried. It's just so... And I wish I could, like... You know, I try to find good even in games that I loathe.
Yeah.
Like, I do try to... Like, as much as I hate Tales of Exillia 2, you know, I try to step back from it and be like, well, conceptually, there's some neat things going on here. And I really like... Ludger and boy, it's been a minute since I've played Exillia 2. I've completely forgotten what the little girl's name is in
which
Exillia
tells you a lot about how much we think about Tales of Exillia 2.
womp womp. At least I remember Ludger's name. But I'm like, I like him, even if he is a silent protagonist. I like what's going on there. There's a lot of neat stuff going on, even if, like, the execution is extremely bad. But I can't even really think of anything that, like, really tickled my brain in this game. Like, and it's not that it's offensive. So, like, there are certain plot points in Exelia 2 that I find, like, offensive to the amount of time that I spent in Exelia 1, right? Like, there's just, like, fundamental misunderstandings of the main cast in that game that when compared to the first game, genuinely make me. I'm like, you don't understand the video game you wrote. Okay, cool. At least we know that now. But, like, there isn't really even anything in this game that inspires that kind of rage in me. You know? Like, at least it's better to feel hate than nothing at all, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, like, it is just boring, is the problem.
It's so bare bones.
There is nothing in this game that is not done better in Alien Omen 1, right, and is not done better in other games. Like,
you have a game that has a one-armed berserker lady with an eye patch in Alien Omens 2. And I can't stand her. I can't stand Victoria, because she's just, there's no nuance. There's no, it's just big tough lady, and it's like, that's cool at first, you know, because I am a demon.
Yeah.
So at first I'm like, oh yeah, unga bunga, you know.
But then
it just kept going.
She proceeds to do nothing.
She just does nothing. She does nothing. What if Judith but did nothing? You know? That's Victoria's whole character. Is she's just there to smash things, and not even like, kind of like how Isla is in fucking Chrono Trigger, where she isn't really like that important to the plot, except for the part where she's like, where you're in her time period.
Right.
But like otherwise, she doesn't really have a lot of insight because she's a cave woman.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not expecting a lot of insight from a cave woman. I don't even think Isla's brain is fully evolved yet, so, you know, it's cool. Victoria does not have that excuse. She's just kind of there, and she smashes things, and, like, she doesn't even have, like, a really kind of, like, you know, big, rare female himbo energy where she wants to go out and fight shit and be dumb. She just kind of is like, well, I'll handle it. And it's like, okay, you want to do anything else? You want to...
Do you maybe want to...
a character trait?
Do you maybe want to influence the path of the plot in any way whatsoever? Or maybe talk to a character?
See, here... You want to hear my other crazy theory?
What's that?
I think she was originally like an optional character. And they got to the end of development and were like, oh shit, we don't have enough.
Yeah, well...
And so they...
I mean,
you know,
I do kind of understand. I kind of get that vibe now that you mention that.
Yeah.
Because, like, you do have to go kind of out of your way to get...
Yeah, it's like a very arbitrary fetch quest to progress the story. Like, you've got to... They're like, hey, to get over the mountains, you've got to go through this mine, right?
Yeah.
You have to go through the fractured mines. But you can't get into the fractured mines unless you go talk to this lady. And this lady is Victoria. And Victoria is just kind of off, not really doing anything.
And it's like, okay, well, we need you to pickaxe the cave-in that happened so we can progress. And she's like, okay, and then I will stay here with you guys. And she doesn't have, like, stakes.
Yeah, and sometimes that's okay. You can have characters who don't necessarily, like, in the beginning have a connection to the main plot, you know?
It's why I like Regal from Symphonia, because it's like everyone like has this very personal reason, and then like they state their motivations for like going with the party and like fighting against the suppressive system, and Regal's like, yes, and also I am here.
And I am also... But like with Regal... He eventually his reason for being there is that he likes these jerks.
Yeah.
Like, that is why he is also here, is that he just likes these kids and wants to help them. And you get that because he's like the extremely buff hot dad, as composed to Kratos, who is just the hot dad.
And
there's a difference.
And he's also like, yes, if the world ended, that would be bad for my business.
I would like to eventually get out of jail and go back to maintaining my business.
Yes.
So that alone is reason to keep going. But, like, you don't really get that sense with Victoria. Like, you don't really get the sense that she really likes these people. She's just kind of there.
It just feels like she ditched her job as the
I mean, that's a mood. And like, frankly, you know, yeah, I would do that too. Like, hey, do you want to bail on your job to go be an adventurer? Sure. But I was, you know, that is a character trait. To be like, I am going to bail on my job that I hate and go on an adventure. That's like a character thing. And we don't get any of that with Victoria.
That should be like something that kind of leads to some eventual catharsis or goes somewhere with her character
or even
development.
like a joke. She could be a funny character, but she's not even that.
Yeah. Maybe that could go anywhere at all. No, she's just there now. You just have her, and she's not allowed to, like, influence anything.
My favorite part... I mean, it's not my favorite part because I don't like this video game, but the funniest part of Victoria is that, like, at the end, when they do the whole, like, everybody has a thing to say about the final boss, she's, like, really fired up. She's like, yeah, we're friends, and we're gonna climb this whole mountain together, whatever the fuck she says. And it's like, are we?
Yeah.
Are we friends?
You don't have a conversation with Edgar at all.
Does she not? No. Does she not?
She doesn't have a bond link with Edgar. She has one with Janelle.
Amazing.
No.
Amazing. And they couldn't even give me any kind of, like, you know, it's like a pretty pink-haired girl and a buff lady. I was like, oh, so maybe we'll get some kind of vibes, you know?
Maybe.
Get some vibes?
No.
Fuck you.
No.
Fuck you.
It's about cooking again. It's about cooking. This isn't even a Japanese company.
This is not even a Japanese company. No,
I'm sorry.
The first game was made by a Swedish company.
That sounded way worse than I intended it to sound. I'm sorry.
But you know what I'm saying.
It is a JRPG
but I know what you're saying. It's such a JRPG trope that, like, women be cooking. Yeah. You know?
They gotta discuss it at least once.
I'm playing Abyss right now, and even then, it comes up. And it's like, oh, this is a product of its time. But I mean, like, you know, even like fucking Berseria brings it up, you know?
I mean, in Berseria, it actually means something and is an important part of Velvet's character.
Yes, you know? Because she was a normal girl who wanted to do normal things like cook, and then was like, you know, had her life destroyed. So it's kind of like, oh, it's like a remnant of who Velvet used to be.
Oh, it goes somewhere. Look at that. It does a thing that advances.
Thematically meaningful.
It adds to her character in a significant way that helps her change and grow and develop and gives us a better understanding of her. Do we get that in this game? No.
No, shut up. We're just going to talk about cakes and giggle.
No, it's just a funny skit. Look. They got points now when they're standing close to each other. There. We're done. Okay.
I'm so tired.
I would do the bond links in Alien Omen 1 just to see them. I didn't give a rat's ass about what kind of stat buff or benefit they gave me.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see them.
Yes, I wanted to see them unfold. I wanted to see these characters learn to like each other, especially because, like, bond points actually were important to, like, the plot. You could actually get additional scenes and stuff if you know their bond points were at a certain level before a certain point. You know, you could get neat things by doing that. And, like, bond points here are purely mechanical.
Yeah.
It's like the exact opposite.
You know,
of the way it was. It's only for battle mechanics.
You know, there's that thing that's kind of going around lately, this, like, trend people are talking about where it's like, you get these big open world games, and the idea is that the developers don't want you to ever miss anything, so nothing is really locked behind anything that like would be difficult to bypass.
Right, yeah.
That's what this feels like. They made everything feel longer and drag things out to a point where it's frustrating to even try to progress.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't give you any reward for your effort, because it's all, you can all just see it no matter what you do.
Yeah, like, God forbid you actually miss anything. Like, there's no reward for, like, really kind of throwing your time into this game. Like, I think there is like a gem hunting side quest thing that I have no idea what it does. I did not do it. I have to confess, I didn't even do it. Because I couldn't even imagine a world where this extremely tedious side quest that involves you, like, grinding encounters in very specific, like, so it's like all the, like we said, the dungeons are all procedurally generated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes you'll get unique is in finger quotes, unique, like, tiles within the dungeon that produce a special enemy. It's kind of like a fairy fountain almost.
Right. And
you beat the enemy and you get, like, a special gem, right? So, like, you're supposed to collect these things. You can take them to this side quest shop and they'll give you stuff. But it was like, that requires you walking around in these broken ass dungeons to try and have that specific thing load in, and then you gotta fight them, and the fight itself is tedious because they're not hard, but they have a lot of HP, you know. And it's like, now do that 150 times.
And
no thank you.
And you might not even get the reward you want.
You'll get a gem,
yeah.
Yes, but you won't get the one particularly you're looking
and
for.
You would,
there's like a percentile chance.
You would think with basically color-coded dungeons, they would be like, oh, go to the green dungeon to get the green gems. It's like, no,
right?
You have a higher chance of getting the green gems, but you might still get the ones you don't want.
You might still just get the trash ones that are basically just rocks.
Now leave the dungeon and come back to try again. So no, I did 3 of those, and I was like, no, actually, never mind, because they go from 20 to 35 to 50 to 200, and it's like, no, not at all.
Oh, that's hilarious. No, that's adorable.
Never.
No, thank you. Never. I will never know what that, I mean, for many reasons, I will never know what that looks like, because again, the game is so broken that Nintendo was like, you can't have this on our store. It's like Cyberpunk all over again. They're just like, no, you can't be having this on our store, y'all. This is too busted. Because it's a lot of small things, but you can't go 5 minutes without something happening. I would enter a new part of the dungeon and the music wouldn't load in.
You can call us hypocrites because we spend 500 bazillion hours in Fallout 4, right? And that game falls apart if you look at it incorrectly.
Yeah, but that's fun.
But Fallout 4 is still fun, and guess what? It has characters that we like talking to.
Yeah, there's, like, interesting things going on in it. Like, there's, for all of Fallout 4's myriad problems, I like exploring in Fallout 4 a lot. Like, the whole reason I even play Fallout 4 the amount I do is because I like building houses a lot. I love building shacks. I will never get tired of building shacks, probably until I die. And I like digging around in abandoned houses. Like, those are 2 things I think are extremely fun, and Fallout has those 2 things in spades. So, and nothing has come out yet that replicates that feeling at all. Like, nothing has even come close. Not even other open world games. And, like, Alien Omen 2 just does not have that going on.
No,
like,
it does not.
Exploring it feels very bad. There are characters that I do not want to interact with, And the town simulator, I don't even get to see it grow. I don't even get to see my town grow. It's just menus. So that's different.
Yeah. I'm like racking my brain, like, is there anything besides like a few background tracks and some animations, like battle animations, that I thought looked cool? And
Jericho's new design, his boss design, is really cool. Like, it's really cool. It goes really well with that track.
It actually is really, really cool. And I like, if this were anything else, I would applaud them for not including any other character from the first, like any other like party member or like main villain from the first game. Because like, you know, that's kind of a bold thing to do.
Sure, yeah.
And in a way, I am kind of glad, because they'd probably be ruined, and that would suck.
Yeah, that's the Xelia 2 problem right there, baby.
But goddamn, I wish this game was just about Jericho, because he's so cool in this one.
His design is so raw now. Like, he's got the cool arm, and he's got the cool spear, and just everything he does. It's just like, it's like I'm in another video game whenever he shows up.
Right? No, it was like, it was one of the few times where like this game actually caught me by surprise, because it's like, holy shit, there he is! There he is!
He's just, it's cool too, because like the first time you see him, they don't actually draw any like attention to him.
Yeah.
He just like walks by and you're like, wait, was that? Hold up! And then he's gone. So then later you see him and you're like, motherfucker, there you are!
They like,
okay.
The one thing they did know was like, okay, we have to make this part look cool. We have to make it cool. We have to make it a big deal that Jericho is back.
Now, if only the rest of it was that cool. And I'm like thinking, like, are there any other? Like, I think Victoria's design is cool. Like, it's pretty good. It's you know, unga bunga, but
I mean,
there's not a lot of attachment to it.
I've seen better versions of that character.
Sure, I know. I'm a starving woman in a desert, Ben. What do you want?
Like, yeah, the problem is, like, yeah, she's cool, but like, I've seen better versions of that exact same archetype.
There's the mercenary group. They're kind of cool. They were the Night Hounds. They're really cool.
They were like, charming. They were like,
they don't show up that much.
No, they were
cool when they do show up.
They were entertaining, and I kind of wish we would have gotten to do more with them. Even the side quests we get with them don't really, like, you know, again, they don't develop at all. You get like one encounter where they help you. And it's like, oh, this is kind of neat, because it is something sort of different, but it's just that one encounter, and then it's over. But then, like, they do, like, a big noble sacrifice, but then they just come back in an optional, like, side quest. Like, oh yeah, we lived. So, okay. Oh, I mean, I'm glad, because you guys were cool, but also, like, oh, well, alright. That was my, like, one moment of feeling like a feeling while playing this game, and you're just gonna kind of take it away from me in a side quest. Okay, sure. Even the final boss in the first game is so fucking. I was like, fucking, you're sweating, like you're gripping the controller as tight as possible. And you're shaking from the adrenaline. Your heart is racing because like this is it, and like this is everything that you've fought for and built up to this, and his speech is so fucking good. And then this game is just like, cat, stop trying to attack my fucking phone charger. Thank you. In this game, it's just so. I guess they thought that like a nameless kind of faceless entity that's been kind of corrupting things would be scary, but it means that I don't really have like a lot of emotional investment in your final boss. Yeah, Alien Omen is not a game where, like, your final boss can be a big thing, right?
Right.
Like, the way the game is structured and the way it's set up and, like, the appeal of the first one is the character interaction, you know?
Yeah, of course.
It is the interpersonal relationship between the characters and how those branch off and affect a greater world, right?
Yeah.
So, like, it would be like if you fought Amano Segiri without fighting Adachi first.
You just roll up and there's just a giant eyeball, like, blinking at you, and you're just like, well, I guess we gotta fight this thing to stop the fog.
Like, imagine if, like, they just caught Adachi, and then they just went to the final boss and fought a giant eyeball.
And that was
the game.
Yeah. That is exactly it. It's just such an anticlimax. You're just like, you're expecting, like,
you're expecting a mastermind. You're expecting, like, you know, they're building up, like, you know, this thing is going to cause some corruption. It's going to undo, you know, the work that was done 5 years ago. It needs to be stopped. And you're like, okay, well, I'm expecting, like, someone to be behind it.
Right. Or not even, I wasn't even necessarily expecting, like, a mastermind. I was just expecting something more, like, focused? Not focused. That's not the word I'm looking for. More, like, intentional. Like, they had, like, an intent.
Yeah.
Like a desire to see this done. Even if it was like a, you know, again, we keep referencing Tales games, but we really like Tales games, so what do you want?
And
like a Tales villain where you think that, like, they maybe have a point. You know? Like, I was expecting something like that, maybe. Like, we would get some kind of explanation for, like, maybe the stuff we did in the first game has caused harm to somebody else, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's just kind of like a defense system that kicked in after the events of the first game, and it's acting automatically. So it's just like you're just fighting like a bio robot.
And it's not even cool. Like, you know, you think about, like, Lavos, for instance, right?
Sure, yeah.
The thing that separates this, like, Lavos from this thing is that characters were trying to use Lavos and were being influenced by Lavos, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, Queen Shala was being manipulated by it. She was being corrupted by its influence. And Magus was trying to summon it to kill it. And, you know, you know, blah, blah. You know, Azalo was banking on it falling to kill the humans and you know, etc. It was cool, and it was like a driving force. And you think about something like say Calamity Ganon, right?
Sure.
Where it's like, oh, well, you get flashback cutscenes that show, like, how this affected characters directly and, like, what it used to be, and, like, you know Zelda, so you're like, okay, well, this is Ganondorf, but, like, brought to the absolute extreme. He's been corrupted so much that he's now just this unstoppable force. Or fucking Shredder from Rise. How
I know. That is. Like, some kind of, even if it had just been like an unstoppable kind of mindless force to get, you know, you can still work with that. Yeah. You can still give it some kind of, like, gravitas, some weight behind its unstoppability, like its inevitability of being able to just steamroll over everything. But by the time you get to this thing, you've done a pretty good job of shutting down, like, its points of corruption.
Yeah.
And so, like, you're just kind of doing cleanup at this point. It doesn't feel like this is, I mean, they give a speech like it's a big, well, this is our moment to be heroes kind of thing. But, like, in your head, you're like, well, what can it do? Like, we broke all of its shit.
It can't leave the facility now. Like,
it looks cool, but that's it.
When we get to the final dungeon, right? And I see a lot of moving parts, right? And, like,
sure,
industrial-ish kind of things. I was expecting, like, oh shit, there's something controlling it. There's something that is intentionally doing this.
Sure.
And it was automated. It was
all automated.
It triggered by itself, and it has no desire. It has no motivation. It is just a thing that exists.
I thought surely at some point, we're shutting down all of these points of corruption. And I'm thinking, like, surely at some point, like, the person responsible for this is going to pop up on a screen or in a hologram or something and be like, how dare you?
Yeah.
Even something as generic as that, I would have taken it. But no, it's just like, oh, we don't know why they're doing this, even toward basically almost the end. And it's just, So when you get to this thing, it just feels so sad. It just feels so like...
How did they make...
We ran out of ideas.
How did they make an RPG in... Well, this is in development in 2020. How did they make a game in 2020 that did not even have a modicum of a plot twist?
I don't know. Every game is trying to out-plot twist the other.
This thing is so straightforward that I spent 75 hours waiting for a hook.
Give me something, right?
Fucking...
Even something small.
Fucking... They didn't even have a traitor in this game.
No, there was not even like a traitor. Everybody was just so... It's just so straightforward. And
I was...
Just the most boring possible option.
I was expecting at least like, oh shit, Jericho's back. He's gotta be up to something, right? No, he's just causing mischief as he do.
Which is like, good for you. I'm glad you're still being your wonderful self.
It was great to get to 5 years later and be like him intentionally saying, no, I haven't learned a goddamn thing. Which was great.
But that fits him.
It does.
Right? That just suits him. That's extremely, very, very perfect Jericho vibes. Just be like, nope, I haven't learned anything. I'm just here to make trouble and be an asshole. And it's like oh, you.
But what about you coming to our aid in the last game at the very last minute? He's like, yeah, that was a one-time thing, and I didn't learn anything from that. Dumbasses.
I don't want to do this hero shit. It sucks. It's hard.
Yeah,
Look, my arm got all fucked up. Why would I want to keep doing this?
But it's like, oh, okay. So are you like behind what's going on? No, he's just taking advantage of the situation to cause more trouble, and that's it.
You beat him in his boss fight, and he's like, "Well, you sure told me. Bye," and then he never shows up again. Yeah. And it's like, oh,
it's like, okay, well then that was it. That was your big cameo from the last game.
At least it was fun while it lasted. At least they gave us something, because otherwise this game is just a drag. It's so sad because it doesn't. At least with Exelia 2, we can have fun hating it. Mm-hmm. Like we can just stay up all night making fun of it and hating its guts. With this game, it just makes me so sad. I'm just like, man.
And I don't know if it was because we went from this to 13 Sentinels that, like, a lot of the game has already left my memory, to be honest.
Oh, I know. Because it's just so dull.
Like, I probably could have gone back and, like, watched some of... Because they do give you the cutscene viewer.
Right.
But and I probably could have, like, before recording I could have gone and watched some of these, but like I don't know, man. I don't want to go through that effort. There's other stuff I could be playing.
I'm playing Control. I'm playing Tales of the Abyss. I'm thinking of starting another Tales of Exelia run soon. Like any of those are better than this. It's just so boring. It's not fun to play. The battle system it doesn't do anything interesting. It feels very just last minute assembled. So even like I like grinding. Like I'm a psycho who really likes grinding. I like a game where I can just kind of fall into a rhythm of grinding out levels. Mm-hmm. But like even getting into like because like grind, like in Persona 5 and Tales games, when you're grinding, you're ending battles quickly. Right?
Yeah.
The fight is over very fast. So you're kind of getting like a constant little baby dopamine rush of okay, battle's over, let's go. Find the next one. Go. Keep moving, keep fighting, keep getting level up. So you're kind of getting like little micro dopamine rushes.
Right.
And that's enough to kind of keep you in a good mindset. You put on some music, you grind it out. By the time you're done, you can steamroll the next boss. It's fine. Like this game, like we said, the battle system is so slow and so tedious that I'm not getting that feedback from the grind that I'm used to.
It's like, especially like when you do compare it to not even to a Tales game, but like to Persona 5 and how how sleek and efficient the menuing is in Persona 5. And how everything
the menuing in this game is such a nightmare. Everything is hidden. It's just nested and nested and nested. And it's like trying to find something in Windows.
The UI looks awful compared to the first game. It doesn't fit. They tried to modernize it, but since they didn't do anything to like modernize the setting in any way, it
seems so out of place.
Yeah, it doesn't. It looks like they ripped it from a completely different game, which they probably did.
I wouldn't be surprised.
But yeah, like it's a wreck. The whole game, top to bottom, is just a wreck.
That's why they took it down. I mean, they got so many complaints. I saw THQ Nordic bitching about it on Twitter, and I mean, like, I hate those guys. Like, that alone probably should have tipped me off about this game,
I've never seen a game like ratings like plummet.
Oh, I know.
To this degree.
They're so low. I mean, there's not a lot of reviews on Metacritic because it was like a small title, but the ones that are out there are like universally like 20s and 30s.
So
it's so bad.
The only I don't get buyer's remorse for many things, right?
Sure.
Because if I buy a game and it turns out to be bad, I can usually harvest some form of enjoyment out of it.
Sure.
I don't have buyer's remorse for Duke Nukem Forever because I got a neat little statue for buying it, and that was a cool thing that I put on my shelf, and I like looking at it.
Good enough.
Okay, you know what? No. Not even this I don't have buyer's remorse for, because I bought physical, which means since this game is off the shelves now.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
I do kind of have like a little piece of history now. It's kind of like owning an ET cartridge.
I was literally about to say, you have a little piece of bad video game history in your hands, and maybe in 30 years it'll be worth like $20, Because boy, it got pulled because it's such a wreck in like every single way. The reviews were trash. People were really shitting all over them on Twitter. They were huge assholes in return on Twitter, which definitely did not improve their standing with people.
No.
You probably don't get combative with the people who bought your bad video game. It's just a suggestion from me to you.
Who, instead of trying to like fix it or at least patch it once.
Yeah.
You just like you straight out refuse, and then what happens is Nintendo goes, no, not anymore. You don't get any.
And they won't issue refunds. So there's probably going to be a lawsuit, which is going to be interesting.
Oh, I'll bet there's like 5 or 6 lawsuits in here because I'm pretty sure some of the shit that they put in here was not licensed properly. Like, I've heard...
That might be why it's such a janky mess. Like, it's just using, like, an unlicensed version of Unity.
Like, I've heard... I didn't see it, and I haven't seen any screenshot evidence, but I've heard rumors that, like, some of the assets that they used, that they created, for, like, in the procedurally generated stuff, were ripped from an asset store.
Oh, like they didn't even pay for like the proper licensing from.
I've heard allegedly
Allegedly in Minecraft parody redacted.
Because I don't know for sure. I haven't seen any hard proof of it.
That wouldn't
But,
surprise me. I mean,
you know,
yeah, no. It just feels so stapled together, held together by prayer, that I wouldn't be surprised at all, you know? God, what a mess.
It sucks. It really does suck. Because this is Alien Omen 2.
It should have, you know, and the problem too is that it's like, well, this game flopped so hard that
it's dead, right?
The franchise is dead. There's no chance of like they got the first game got that limited time Switch release, kind of like Mario. But like this one did so poorly. I don't see the first one ever getting like a proper re-release now.
Do you think it only had that limited time thing because THQ Nordic bought the rights?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Yeah. That's it. They just put that out there as fast as possible.
God, that sucks.
I know.
That
sucks ass. So right now it'll probably live forever in rights limbo, and because the second game sold like dog shit and was a huge clusterfuck for everyone involved, that they'll probably never release the first game again. So if you have it on ROM, we don't endorse the cool crime of piracy, but maybe hang on to that.
Now, and like, I think the only thing we can hope for is that maybe like 10 years down the line, the original dev team is like, hey, we're making Spaceman Prophecy.
Yeah, like Quiet Mountains. Yeah, exactly.
Just like, you know, let Alien Omen get its Bloodstained or get its Ukulele in the Impossible Lair. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no.
Like, this is just the franchise now. That's just what we call it. Don't worry about it. It's cool. Who knows? God, I hope so. That would be extremely sick. I know, like, I heard that one of the devs just, like, doesn't do video games at all anymore. He's, like, in real estate in Sweden or something like that, which doesn't surprise me at all.
No.
Considering how their like labor of love has been treated over the years. Like, I too would just be like, well, I'm off to live in the mountains now. Goodbye.
I mean, like, it's been like 15 years, so like, yeah, you know, there's. Yeah.
I think some of like the lead programmers and stuff still make video games, but I know a lot of people were pretty jaded by the experience. So if they ever come back together and make something, it would be really special. But
it's because you know,
for now,
the first game does have that bittersweet thing of like, you know, that like they tried so hard to get this thing out,
to make something really unique, and it just really flew under the radar.
Yeah, and they did, but it didn't get the recognition until way too late.
Yeah, and by then, once people started recognizing it, they made a shitty, half-cocked sequel that is basically going to taint like everybody's view of this game forever.
The only upside of it not being available anymore is that we are I think we might have avoided this being its legacy, you know?
Oh yeah.
Because
that's true.
like we won't get the deluge of Sonic 06 LPs.
Yes.
From this game, because it's just not available anymore.
It's impossible to get your hands on now unless you can somehow find a physical copy, which good fucking luck. Yeah. That was a very limited run. So who knows? I don't know what the future holds. It sucks. Keep playing the first game. Keep playing the first game on emulator. You didn't hear that from me.
Just get it from someplace. You know, it was released on a lot of different things.
Fell off the back of a truck. Yeah. You know, you'll find it. That's still worth it.
You do what you have to play Alien Omen 1.
Don't do what you have to play the sequel. Avoid the sequel at all costs, and you'll thank us. So, okay.
All right.
Anything else you want to get off your chest?
Oh, God.
Probably a lot, but,
There's a lot, but I don't have the energy to do a part 2 of this because, like...
Oh, God, no.
No, I just don't want to think about it anymore, honestly.
Yeah, I just want to wash my mouth out with, like, soap and be done with it, Never think of this again. Go play the first one and pretend it doesn't exist.
Yep. Yeah. Just this one didn't happen. Don't even worry. Don't even...
It didn't happen. It didn't happen. It's not canon. It's fine.
So... Thank you to Visitor for use of background music. You can follow me on Twitter at thegorgepodcast. You can follow Sara at radioinactivity. And again, we are patreon.com/thegorge. If you want to occasionally listen to us watch good things and bad things, $5 for takeout, $2 for That's Hell You're Walking Into, where I desperately, just like this game, desperately try to find the one thing in Fate lore that went alright for people. And if you want us to suffer for an extended period of time, get us to $1,000 a month on Patreon, and we'll do the Snyder Cut.
It's true.
We will. We totally 100% will. And if you want to listen to Sara play good role-playing games with like actual characters and personality, you can listen to her other podcast.
Hey, I'm in another podcast called Big Gay Nerds, where me and a bunch of cool queer friends get together and we play tabletop games. We cycle through the different systems. It's always a good time. Right now, I'm not in it. I've taken a slight hiatus because I'm moving, so I need time to pack my house and get ready to completely transfer the way I live my life. But my friends are playing Cage of Sand, which is a very neat experience. If you want to listen to that, head on over to Big Gay Nerds on SoundCloud, and you can find the links to the rest of our social media from there. Thanks!
Alright, that'll do it for us. For this one, I think we should each get one.
Oh.
I actually do have one first.
Okay, go for it.
Fuck spiders.
Fuck spiders.
I don't like looking at those models. Those are bad.
They're very bad spiders. They're very disconcerting. And I don't like spiders in general, but there's something very off about them.
So, I couldn't do, Skyrim, because I didn't like the spiders in that one. There's something about low poly spiders that I'm just like, no.
Makes you skin crawl. Yeah, no.
Absolutely not. Never.
Yeah, I gotcha. Nah, I feel ya.
What?
As for me...
Yeah, what do you got?
Fuck April Fool's Day. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.